In this video, we are going to discuss variables in VBA. What is a variable? A variable is a memory store in which we can store a value and use it later in our macro. We will see how to declare a variable in VBA and how to store or assign a value to it. So I'll go to Visual Basic Editor on the Developer tab, and in this file, I have this module here. I will double click that and I will write a macro in it. This is the name of the macro. As soon as I press enter, it adds these two brackets and the end sub statement for me, which is quite helpful. Then I will write the name of the variable and simply assign a value to it. And that's it. So this statement does two things. It creates a variable and then it stores 500 in it, all in one go. I will write another statement to change the value which is stored inside our variable. So when VBA reaches this line, it changes the value currently stored in this variable to sheet 1. I will write a few more statements. It stores a date in my value. In this statement, it evaluates this, and this expression returns a logical value true, which it stores in my value. Now let us go to a special window and look inside the brains of VBA. So I will go to View and open this Locales window. This Locales window shows us in runtime the values of variables in the current macro which is running, and it also shows the data type of those variables. Let us see how it does that. So I will put my cursor somewhere inside the macro. It can be here or here, anywhere inside a macro, and then I will press F8, or I will step into the macro using this step into button. As soon as the macro starts running, it creates this variable in memory. You can see it here. Currently its value is empty because no line has run yet, and it also shows that it is a variant type of variable. And that means the data type of the variable, which we will discuss later, is not yet declared. And so it calls it a variant type variable, and currently it is empty. So this shows us the data type of the variable, and this shows the current value in it. When we run the first line, things change. It shows the value here, 500, which is stored currently in the variable, and it shows that the data type of the variable is variant, and the data type of the stored value in this variable right now is integer. If we run the next line, it says my value has changed now. It contains sheet 1, and the data type also has changed. So the declared data type is variant, but currently the value that is stored in it has a string data type. Let us run the next line, and it shows that the current value stored in it is a date. The declared data type is still variant, but the data type that is currently stored in it is a date. Next line, it shows true, and it shows Boolean is stored in it. Then the last statement, the value is 125.36, which is a double type data. Wherever we have decimals in our numbers, that data type is double. It is called double in VBA. And then wherever we have this integer number, this data type is the integer data type. We will discuss data types more in the coming videos, but for the time being, just understand that these are two different data types in VBA. This one is integer, this one is double. Let us press F8 one more time, and this macro stops running. As soon as the macro stops running, VBA destroys all the variables that were declared inside that macro. This way it conserves memory space. So whatever variables you declare inside a macro are running when the macro is running. When the macro stops running, all the variables that are declared inside that macro lose their value, and also the memory space is cleared. You can see that in the Locales window. So this Locales window is very important when we are debugging our code. It helps us look into Excel's brain and investigate all variables that we have declared. So in this short exercise, we saw how to declare our variables and how to store values in it. So this part of the line declares a variable and this part of the line stores a value in it. Now how will we use these variables? I'll show you an example. So if I type debug.print and say my value, this line will write the current value stored in this variable in the immediate window. So let us go to view and bring up the immediate window also. The shortcut for this window is Ctrl G. Immediate window opens up and I will write these two statements and then run the macro. It stores that 500 in my value, and after that when I run this line, it reads the value stored in this variable and writes that value in the immediate window. Now this statement reads the value stored in my value and calls the type name function and provides it the value that is stored in the variable. The type name function gets that value and decides the type of that variable. That type is currently integer. So when we run this line, it says integer here. So that is how we use those variables later in our code. We declare it here and then we use it here in two places. We also saw that type name is a useful feature. It's a function which is available in VBA. So how many such functions are available in VBA? If we want to look at that, we need to open up the object browser, and from here, since it's a VBA function, we have to filter out VBA library and all the objects in the VBA library, and then we can type here type name and press enter, and we can see that in the VBA library, in the information class or the information object, which is shown here, all these functions are defined and type name is one of them. It also says that it's a function, name is type name, and when we give it a variable, it returns the type of that variable. And there are other functions in it, isDate, isArray, that we can use in other places. All these information functions are declared inside the information object in VBA. So this is our library, this is our class which is defined inside that library, and these are the members or the functions or methods or properties which are defined in that object. This function is technically called a method, but we can call it function also. We can use it as a function and it returns the type of that variable. I'll close the object browser and let us copy these two statements and paste them here, 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 and here as well. When I run the rest of the macro, the value changes, as you can see in the locals window, and it is printed in the immediate window. So you can see it prints sheet 1 and string. I'll put my cursor at the end of the immediate window so it prints the values here and not in between. So the next value is a date. So it writes that date and the type of the variable. So that is how you declare a variable in VBA and store a value to it. In the next video, I'll show you how to store object values in your variables. Thank you for your time and stay tuned.